Russia would not have attacked Ukraine. Think of the different world we'd have right now.
Yeah, well, and I tell you personally, I was in Iraq, never Afghanistan, but it hurt my soul to see this rapid pullout, and they try to blame it on you as, well, you had a plan. Well, yes, there were metrics to be met. How do you respond to them?
Well, I heard the other day they tried to blame it on me. You know, for a while they didn't because it doesn't play, but we had a great plan, and they understood the plan, but the plan was subject to doing a lot of different things. But number one, you don't pull out the military first, okay? They pulled out the military first, you pull out the military last. First, you get your American citizens out, you get some other people that were loyal to us out, not the number of people that they took, but there are people like interpreters and others that were very loyal to us that are probably maybe gone now or in great danger. We just took out thousands and thousands of people. Half of the people we took out were probably terrorists. But we had a plan, and those people, think of it, because of how badly it was done, 13 dead, many horribly wounded, $85 billion worth of equipment goes to them. They display it every year at their little parade. They have a parade where they show the Americans with the equipment. My plan was subject to following certain steps, and they didn't follow those steps. And I told my people, nope, it's dead, and then they'd follow the steps. And it was phase 2, and they had to follow the steps. They had to follow all of the stuff. They didn't do any of it, and that would mean it was dead. Now then, once we called them on it, because it was subject to, they started doing everything perfectly. It would have been perfect. But these people, they took it over. They had no idea. They just moved. But here's the thing. You have to move the military out last, because once the military moved out, it was a disaster. And then they had that lift, that so-called airlift that was so horrible. That's where we lost our 13 young soldiers. Yeah. But a lot of people so horrifically wounded. You know, Carl, they never talk about that. They never like to talk about no arms, no legs, the face just wiped out. They talk about the 13 dead, and of course we shouldn't. I got to know those families. They're incredible people. But they never talk about soldiers that lost a leg or both legs or both arms, right. Or a soldier that lost 2 arms and 2 legs is otherwise very badly wounded beyond that with the face. And nobody ever talks about that. And it's so horrible what that was. That was such I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country.
I would agree, sir. The other thing you didn't mention, Kim Jong Un. All right, this is someone who hasn't gotten a lot of attention recently, but you know, in your book you talk about he had an opportunity like no other to be remembered as a leader who ushered in a glorious new era of security and prosperity for his people. People don't give you credit for crossing that line and going into that country and having a conversation with him.
Well, I did, and I got along with him great, and he liked me, and I must tell you, I got along with him great. I can't say, if I'd say I like him, the press would say, oh, he liked Kim Jong Un. I got along with him great. I understood him.
But that's how you get things done.
By the way, tough guy, smart guy, and we were not in danger. You know, when I took over, I sat with President Obama, and which is a tradition, as you know. You sit sometimes for 10 minutes and sometimes for a long time. I sat with him a long time, actually. And I said, what's the greatest problem? He said, North Korea. That's Kim Jong Un. And I said, have you spoken to him? Have you talked to him? No. Have you called him? And, you know, I guess they were a little bit vague on that. The answer is they tried calling. He wouldn't talk to the Americans. He wouldn't talk to them. But he talked to me. And we had meetings. We had 2 meetings. And I will tell you, it was amazing. We became, let's put it this way, we were not in danger. And South Korea was not in danger. Now South Korea is in great danger. And he has a tremendous nuclear stockpile. And he doesn't like the people in this. He doesn't like our leaders at all. He says it very openly. He's very plain-spoken in that sense. He says it very openly. But we had a very good relationship. I had a great relationship with Putin. Putin would never have done what he did without me there. In fact, they started lining up at the border after I left. And I said, he must be doing that for purposes of negotiation. Good negotiator. And I think he was. And then he got... I will say this. Biden said the worst things. He said the exact opposite of what he should have said. But I believe Putin lined up at the border to negotiate, and he ended up in a war that's so bad for everybody. And it could lead to World War III. With this group of leaders, the same people that did Afghanistan. Do you know, we said Afghanistan was bad. You'd know this better than anybody because you were such a big military guy and hero. the Afghanistan situation, Milley should have been fired. Everybody that even touched it or smelled it should be fired. He didn't fire anybody. And we have the same people dealing with Russia and nuclear weapons right now as we had in Afghanistan, the most embarrassing moment, I think, in the history of our country. So hopefully we're going to win the election. We're going to get it all changed. I'll get that war settled before I even become president. I will get it settled while I'm president-elect. And the Middle East, you know, we did the Abraham Accords. We did so many things. The capital, we had Jerusalem declared capital because we moved our embassy into Jerusalem. Not only moved it, we got it built. I got it built in a very rapid fashion. You know, I spent $500,000 building the embassy. I said, find a building. They were going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to purchase a piece of land that wasn't as good as land we already owned. Yeah. I said, let me ask you a question. Do we own land? Yes. Where? They said, we'll report back. They come back 2 days later. They say, we own a piece here, best location, because we were there early, you know? We were there very early. Yeah. We had the best location. Said, is there a building on it? Yes. Is it a good building structurally? Yes. I said, let's have fun. Let's build an embassy for peanuts. We built it for $500,000. Think of that. Using Jerusalem stone, because there are plenty. It's a very expensive stone outside of the United States. I mean, you have to see this. One of the most expensive stones, but in Jerusalem, not expensive. I said, let's use Jerusalem stone. And what happened is we ended up building it. They would have spent $2 billion. They were planning on spending $2 billion to build an embassy in Jerusalem. I built it for almost nothing. Nobody talks about it, but that's okay. And it's actually a gorgeous embassy. If you spent $2 billion, it wouldn't be as nice as the one you have right now. Mm-hmm. But we had the land for free. We did some renovation and some of an existing building, which was a very good building that wasn't being used. Right. And it was sort of a great thing. We did a lot for Israel, I can tell you that. Yeah. And by the way, Israel's in very grave danger.